to the Next Best Picture podcast, where we are talking with Radu Jude, the writer and director of the new Dracula. Radu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you very much.
I am very excited to talk to you, particularly about this film, which I find fascinating. And one of the most fascinating things about it is that apparently this film started off as a bit of a joke when you were at festivals with Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn, and producers and distributors weren't interested in that. You'd said, well, I also have a Dracula film. Even though you didn't.
We're not, no, they were not interested in that film, which was a project at the time. So that's correct. It was in Rotterdam Film Festival. They have a market, and the specific of this markets of project is that you meet every day 6, 7, 8, 10 producers, distributors, sales agent, and you discuss the project. So everybody was very reluctant with Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn, saying, oh, this project is not for us, or I don't see any potential of it, etc., etc. And at some point I did that as a small joke. I said, well, if you take this one, I give you my Dracula script, as I'm from Transylvania. I did one, I wrote one, which was not true, of course. And when I said that there's a enthusiastic reaction, I repeated the joke out of boredom, and then I repeated it out of provocation a little bit, out of fun. And when was coming back with the plane, I told my producer, why not doing something if people are really interested in that in a certain way? So yeah, it started like that. Then of course, when you do this kind of, let's say, author cinema, I don't know how to say, then I really need to have something that I believe in, or I believe in making. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult, as I have to search for funding myself or with the producer, but it takes a long time. So it's not like it's someone give you the script, the money, and say do the film, and you do it to the best of your capacity. It's something that you have to work for it, and I want it to be something that I like and I'm interested in. And after I spent a few months watching vampire or Dracula films, and some are of course great, some are less so, and after I read a few novels, including Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I find a great novel, by the way, I said, well, I cannot come with anything in this. So then I took it back, like Edgar Allan Poe, when he speaks about how he wrote the Raven, said, okay, what should I offer? Well, something about Dracula, vampires, but what can I offer which is not from Hollywood and from televisions and from Netflix and from whatever? So I said, well, maybe the local versions of that, maybe something which is connected with the place I'm coming from. And then in that moment, things started to reorganize themselves a little bit easier. And then when ChatGPT appeared, actually, just to finish the whole steps of the idea, and I tried some being blocked somehow with the project. I tried some things like write me a Dracula story in Auschwitz, or write me a Dracula story but with hardcore porn, and the answer of the ChatGPT was, I'm not allowed, and if you ask more of this or it's not appropriate, you will be kicked out. So then I said, well, but maybe I can be my own ChatGPT, my own AI machine. So, and all of a sudden everything became easier to construct, to build somehow.
So that was actually one of the other questions I was going to ask, which was how much of the different story segments in this film were actually generated by AI or came from your own brain, as if it was from an AI.
Well, it's an interesting question, and the first time I heard it, I considered the people who asked me idiots. Excuse me to say it, but then I realized that I'm the idiot, because I had the feeling, which was totally wrong, that the structure of the film makes it very clear that it's a mocking AI machine. So it's myself, the AI machine, apart from the very obviously AI generated images, like the one behind me now. Even worse, because I'm interested in this trashy digital poetry. Apart from that, everything was written by myself, as I'm presenting myself, actually with my voice, as I'm a AI machine. But of course, that things cannot be so obvious. So I was a bit shocked, but I still don't know how could I reframe it differently. Someone wrote a whole review, I think it was in France, saying that the film shows how terrible AI is in generating films altogether. Like, it's first of all, well, if it's like that, that's it, that's the level. But then I said, oh, but isn't it because the man was, or the reviewer, sorry, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, that the reviewer was really, really interpreting the stories or the images or the sounds or the dialogues or whatever as being generated by prompts using in
Mm.
AI machines, and was not convinced of those. So I think if you I think the frame was totally wrong, but it's like if you frame, if I would frame yourself now as an AI
Mhm.
generated image, I would say, oh, I don't think it's really great that the shirt they put there, it's maybe not the best one. Maybe the hair should have been differently or whatever. So I think it was a hilarious thing to read because the angle was totally wrong, but maybe the film itself doesn't offer too many clues, and this is also shows what level of confusion we are in today, where you don't know how things
Yeah.
are made anymore.
Yeah. And you do a great job of imitating the AI, which is subsequently like the AI is also imitating what humans do. It's this interesting sort of feedback loop that you've created with this film. And on top of that, this film is about a young filmmaker trying to make a Dracula film for himself. And it almost plays as like this love letter to independent cinema and creative filmmakers, while also taking a jab at these sort of shortcuts that AI offers. But I'm curious if you think that these tools legitimately could be used as an entry into filmmaking by young cinema lovers.
You mean the AI tool?
Yeah.
Well, it's now I'm asked these kind of things as I'm a kind of specialist, which I'm not actually.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to use it out of some curiosity. And me and Vlajko Golcha, he's actually a musician, a jazz musician and composer, and passionate about technology. So we did it. I did it with him in very amateur ways. I mean, we are not professionals. We never been to any class or course about AI using. He'd read some tutorials, I think, and that was it, and some forums. But if AI is becoming or a legitimate tool, well, I think yes, like any tool can be used. If one can become a filmmaker using only AI, I don't know why not. There's someone. Do you have Instagram?
I don't, but I have seen some of the things that have been going around Instagram.
Yes, there's an artist with the name of the artist on Instagram is Loved or Lear. I don't remember his real name.
Mm.
I think he's Italian or something like that, and he's doing every day some small film, like 1 2 minutes, even less, with AI generated images, and it's stunning, and you can see that it's if someone knows what to ask the machine and how to control it and how to use it, it ends up generating interesting stuff. And I think it has to do a lot with him,
Mm.
not only with the machine, because if I try to do it, I'm not able to do what he does in a certain way. So for the moment, I think it's like that. Now, if these softwares or programs become more independent and they can, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm curious to see it, and I'm not afraid at all. I think it's really. I mean, it is, of course, something which is scary in many ways, but in the same time, I don't think it's a attitude to and I think it needs to be regulated, of course, from
Mm,
some
yeah.
point, taxed and whatever, and see in how ways can be not used, not in a damaging way. But like any new technology, like any new things that appears, it can be used for good things or for bad things, and I think that the healthy, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a healthy attitude would be to be curious about it and not to say, oh my God, I don't want to even hear about that. That's disgusting. That's ugly. That's horrible. That's not ethical, not ecological, whatever. Yeah, okay, it is all of these things, but in the same time, it's more, I
Mm,
think, into that, or could be more, or maybe not. Maybe it's gonna end. Maybe in 2 years we will be out of this. I don't know. I'm curious to see, and if cinema is in crisis because of this, and I think it is a certain crisis,
yeah.
well, I think that's even better, because then it means that we filmmakers really, really need to work harder and to be smarter than these machines. And if we are not, then there's nothing to cry about. Just let the machines do a better job.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. And on top of that, I know that you are a self-described big fan of TikTok, noting that the creativity on display in those clips is just so radical and inventive. And your previous film, Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World, was in large part about those kinds of videos and creativity. And it almost feels like this film is a bit of an extension of that with the AI generated images that you use. The thing that I found interesting about this was that this film is 3 hours long, and most TikTok videos are under 3 minutes. So I'm curious, like, aside from the editing tools and stuff that TikTok offers, what do you think cinema can take from TikTok's success, and how do we apply it?
Well, not only I'm interested in TikToks, but with Andrei Rus, who's a friend, but a film historian and film teacher and a film critic from Romania.
Mm.
We did a 35 minutes compilation video and we presented in New York Film Festival last week. And we went online to discuss it with Devika Girish and then with some audience people, and it was an interesting, really interesting discussion. Well, first of all, I think it has to be recognized that this kind of amateur videos that you find on TikTok or other platforms, I say TikTok in a general way, it can be some on Instagram, it can be on others, can be, it's not necessarily to be like that, can be really, really cinematical and can be really, really creative, can be really, really informative, like a good documentary. It is like a good direct documentary. Can be really artistic. Can be really avant-garde in a certain way, and it's something to recognize. I know, and I met a lot of people from cinema that are completely against even mentioning the names. They say, "Well, fuck you. This is something outrageous. I don't want to even hear. That's just the scum of." Well, I don't agree with that. Even from the perspective of someone interested in let's say quality cinema, you find it there, you find it very poetical sometimes, very from an anthropological point of view. I think it's a great tool. You all of a sudden you have 1 billion eyes, 1 billion cameras recording the world in places where a professional camera will never get, or it will take 10 years to do it. So it's all these things together, and then you can discover, and of course this is not something, but I think it's the first time that you, because we have the intuition, we have the knowledge, and we had an intuition about cinema, but not the knowledge about what an amateur cinema can look. In the same way, for instance, you have music, everybody sings, and
Mhm.
and sometimes you can see a beggar at the corner of the street playing something which is absolutely great, or you can have a lover or a neighbor or someone in the family that sings, and it's beautiful the way they do it, although they are not professional singers. You have the same with text. There's a lot of people posting their sometimes text on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or whatever, and sometimes these texts are really beautiful. They are really small poems or whatever. You have it with drawing. All our kids are drawing, and the drawings are amazing. amazing, and sometimes amateur painters can do interesting things. But we didn't have an intuition. I mean, we didn't have the knowledge, but only an intuition of what an amateur filmmaker would be. And I'm not mentioning in the old sense of the word, where an amateur filmmaker was someone who's buying a 16 millimeter camera,
Mhm.
going to a film club and do amateur films. No, now you have someone like is doing amateur videos, like someone is doing amateur music, folk music, if you want. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden you can see that that is the same thing like in these disciplines. There's a lot of trash, of course, but sometimes there's a lot of sparks that appears that someone has maybe only one once in a lifetime an intuition and is filming something, or sometimes someone becomes better and better. There's a lot of fun in them, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of openness, because these people, contrary to professional filmmakers, are not obsessed by rules,
Mm.
and there's no rules for them. And all of a sudden, of course, you have to be open to that and to accept that most of what you see is not good, but most of what we see in everything is not good.
Yeah.
um, but for me, is this the fact that creativity in cinema can exist for at everybody, like creativity. Of course, it's not everybody, because people draw becomes Rembrandt. So not
Mhm.
everybody who's making TikTok videos will become the next whoever you want, Dryer, whatever, you know.
Mhm.
But still, there's the potential is there, and sometimes I think these snippets, these small things, which are don't have any artistic intention, are more creative and can be more useful, or how should I say it, more enjoyable in a very
Mhm.
deep way than narrative or professional cinema. And this shows also, I think, and if you are honest filmmaker, you must look at this and say, okay, I have to try something more and to be more ambitious in a good sense of the word, because I think it's I mean, professional filmmakers consider always themselves to be better than amateurhood, you know. But all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you see people on TikTok and say, "Oh
Right.
my God, these people are better than I am. They have
Mm.
nicer ideas sometimes, or more courage, or more openness, or more
Mm.
freedom." So if you're honest, you feel in crisis, I think.
I can totally understand that actually. And thinking about the making of this film, I am curious, you know, you shot this with much of the same actors and crew as Continental 25, which also released this year. And I'm curious how that having them the same people that you're working with, did that add to this sort of like community spirit that takes on this form of its own in Dracula, with the little group of people at the sort of dinner theater slash sex thing, and the really amateur style, like community building of that film. Did working with all those people across two films influence this film at all?
I'm sure it does. Now I'm not sure I have some organized thoughts around that, because both films were done back to back, and I'm sorry to repeat myself. I said it already. That the reason is that it's connected with the history of cinema, but in other ways, because I found out that history of cinema is done in a way which is not very satisfying for me, that it's only about, well, aesthetics or politics or whatever, but not about
Mm.
the creativity in production, let's say. So when I read about how Monte Hellman did Ride in the Whirlwind and the shooting, as pushed by Roger Corman, who did, if you do one western, why not do a second one in the same
Yeah.
time? And all of a sudden, it seems like such a simple thing, but I said, well, that's a great idea, because of course there's a lot of cost reduction and a lot of energy. But and I said, when I will have the opportunity, I will do it. And I think now the opportunity came, and I took it. So I said, let's do two films back to back, and that's it. And using the same crew and part of the actors from Dracula, which was the first film actually to be conceived and
Mm.
prepared for the second one, which was Continental, a smaller one, and we did that and actually felt it's interesting because you mentioned two films, but what is striking for us making them, it felt like one film
Mm.
because you're just in a continuity, you know. it's
Yeah.
it's it's like it's the same people, the same, I mean, people, I could, you know, it's like you shoot a film, you have the everybody around and you're making the film together, and then maybe you split it in four films, and
Hmm.
nobody will have a problem because they say, well, we thought we are working on one film, but actually we split it in. Now it was not this process because we knew we are making two films, but since it was the same, it felt actually like a regular filming for one film, but we knew that some images are for another one. It was just,
Right.
so it's actually counterintuitively it, because the work process is the same more or less. Of course, it's different style or whatever, but the work process is the same. The steps are the same. It you could make 20 films in a row and it feels like doing one actually. So,
Well, that's great. And I know we're coming up on the end of our time together. Before we go, I wanted to ask, Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World was Romania's submission to the Oscars that year. And I'm curious how it felt for you to be chosen to represent the whole country in that way.
well, it felt great because the film was received, let's say, mixed.
Mm,
That felt
fair.
felt good to be in that position. Of course, I didn't have any expectations, and now, you know, I'm very sensitive to talk about Oscars because whatever you say is if you don't say the regular stuff, or like I started to be very polite,
Mm,
then you're easily accused. I remember that I did an interview also for US when that film
mm,
was out. It was in March, so just around the Oscars. And one journalist asked me, so how was the how what do you think about how Oscars ceremony was? And I said, well, I didn't watch it. I don't care about it. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, really, literally, I don't care about it. And then he said, but tell me about the nominations or whatever. I said, well, I don't know when the films were. And then I said something, and then it was like a headline, I don't care about Oscars or whatever. And in
mm.
Romania, people say, oh, of course he doesn't care because he's not able to be there.
Right.
So now it's like you know, the fox with the grapes from La Fontaine fable. So whatever I say, but I actually, for me, Oscars and Oscar nominated films, even the foreign language ones or international ones, for me seem like another planet, honestly.
Mm,
So it's really, really difficult to see myself even or desiring something like that. It's like in the old, you know, it's like people who are envious on their neighbors for $1,000 more, but you
mm.
don't envy someone who's a billionaire. You say it's another
Sure.
league, another. So I guess it's the same. I mean, for me, I don't want to judge it as being good or bad, but Oscar
Mm,
films and Oscar ceremony and Oscar this and Oscar that is something. It's like from Mars. It doesn't
yeah.
have. I'm from a peripheral country of Eastern Europe. And sometimes, of course, a film from our region gets into the international Oscar like something which is tolerated to be there, like the poor relative at the dinner, and
Oh,
people,
no.
and people are crazy about it. But I'm not. I never did a tour for the Oscar
Mm.
preparation or these things because. So I say all this because I don't want to look like I'm despising.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it's you know, it's also when you see films like one battle after another, I want to see it in the cinema, and it feels something totally different from the budget already. I mean, I cannot
Hmm.
even count the numbers of $130 million or how much it was. I mean, it's something,
Right.
it's unimaginable. And if someone would say to me, I give you this money to make one film, I would say, don't give me just half of it. I will make 50 films or whatever. Why would I make one film with 100 millions? It's insane. But that's, well, it's another process, another society, other values, other money, you know. So, yeah.
Well, and it's a fascinating world to be in the conversation of, even. And this is a fascinating film for me. It's one of the most fascinating films I've seen this year, and it's been
Well,
wonderful to talk to you about
you're
it.
one of the few. Most people say it's vulgar and it's ugly, and I'm totally put off because I really think the film is entertaining. So I don't understand
Yeah.
saying it's boring and it's vulgar and repetitive because for me it's not. But well,
Different strokes for different folks. People have different taste levels,
for
and
sure, sure.
even
But
in the
I don't.
vulgarity, I find this
I
film
accept the
fascinating.
people's. I accept people saying the film is bad, but I don't accept the arguments which they use. I don't think that it's bad because of what they say. Why it's bad, you know.
Well, and as you shouldn't, as the filmmaker. But Radu, it's been wonderful to talk to you today.
For me, the same. For
For all
me,
the
the
time we have, thank you so much for
same. Thank you.
everything.
Thank you.